All right. Let's see if this camera thing can keep track of where I am. Why not, right? Put on the glove. Question is, to work on a new piece or finish an old one? I think we should work on a new one. That's nothing special. All right, crack my drink here. Ooh, nice flake. Look at that. Whew. That's a good one. Just maybe try and turn that arrowhead really quickly. That's a nice one. Not flake off a moment ago. I think this camera thing is going to be more trouble than it's worth. Knocked this flake off a moment ago. Already is nice and flat and straight. So I thought, hey, let's just make a arrowhead out of that before moving on to something more ambitious. What's up, folks? Welcome to Flintknap Friday. Working on a piece of dacite here. Hey, Amit, I'm making an arrowhead. This is called Flintknapping, the ancient art of making stone tools. Like that. Here's a nice big biface from someday. Hey, Emmy. Nervous Rider from Australia. Hey, what's up? Hey, das guy. So I was starting to work on a nice big piece using this. This is a piece of dacite. I knocked a flake off of it. This one, which came out really thin and straight. So I thought, hey, why not go for an arrowhead like that? You got a question? I don't know how you say your name. Yixman? Go for it. I like questions. I never started. I got some stone arrows from my creek, most likely from the Adhesives. Yeah. Ancient technology. For the longest time, for the most of human history. Do I know what yet means? Yeah. Hey, I'm watching you. But for the longest time, this was the height of technology. For most history, our tools, our cutting tools, were stone tools. Isn't that amazing? Yasmin, very nice. That's a beautiful name. Interesting spelling. Not in great condition. Yeah, well, it's been wherever you found it from your creek. You know, it may have been there for thousands of years. Thousands. I'm not answering that. I'm not answering that. You can look that up online. I don't need to walk into that minefield. How long does it take? It depends on how much practice you have at this and what you're starting with, and how careful you want to be. If you just want to make something pointy, you know, I can make something pointy out of this in you know, a few minutes. But I'm going to try and be careful and kind of not break it and make it a good shape. And so, you know, it'll probably take me, I don't know, 20 minutes or something like that. Do I make these to sell, or is it just a hobby? At this point, it's just a hobby. I'm very interested in making things, in history and biology, and I practice various kinds of ancestral skill, survival skills. So for me, this kind of combines all of my interests into one. Oh, let me show you some stuff that I've made here. A knife made out of a stone called chert. And I've mounted it to a antler handle. And this is sinew that's holding it on there. And in the black stuff in there, that's pitch glue. So this is a complete knife, much like, you know, Native Americans would have made or still make. I shouldn't speak about them in the past tense. They're still around. And some of them are excellent flint knappers. So that's just an example of what one can make, or the arrowhead I showed a moment ago. And I have arrows that I've made that work, that shoot, that are completely made with from scratch, every part of it. Thank you, Bill. Thanks, Dane. Welcome. Some new faces here. It's great to see. So I just happened to knock off a nice thin flake, so I thought, hey, why don't I work on that for a little bit? How do you make the pitch? That's a great question. So here in North America, or northeastern North America where I am, typically a combination of a few things. The first and most important one is the pitch from pine trees, okay? Then that's mixed with charcoal. Those two things alone are going to make a pretty decent glue. But then sometimes you mix in a bit of fine plant fiber. And if it's available, you might also mix in some beeswax. And both of those things will make it a little less brittle and a little stronger. Let's see, that's going to be hard to see. Here's another knife I made, antler handle. And the black stuff in there is the pitch glue. So there's a notch in the handle. And then you put the glue in, warm it up, and then you put the blade in, warm it again, and smooth it with a wet flip so it doesn't stick to your finger. And then you wrap it. This is animal sinew, which gets very strong and shrinks after it's dried. So typically charcoal, pine pitch, charcoal, and then sometimes dried rabbit droppings, because what those are made up of are very, very, very fine pieces of fiber. And those act like kind of a rebar to keep the glue from being too brittle. Yeah, it's an ancient shank. Yeah, you bet it is. You wouldn't want to mess with someone who knew how to use one of those. Thanks for the subscription, Nervous Rider. I really appreciate it. I'm working on getting my YouTube channel up and running. And so I've been getting on here and sharing this with folks, and I'm working on some long form videos, and I've got some up. But I can use all the support I can get, you know? So I very much appreciate it. So right now when I'm doing, hey, thanks, Dan, I appreciate that. What I'm doing right now is a process called pressure flaking. The two main ways to shape stone are with percussion, that is, bang, hitting it. This is too small, I'll break it. So I'm using pressure. So what that involves is putting this on a rubber pad. Historically, it would have been like a piece of leather. I've got some leather, and then you put the tip right on the edge, and then by applying pressure in to the tip, you can break off a small flake. When you hear that little click, that's what's going on. It is a cool hobby. It's like the best and the worst because I'll be honest with you, I have found it surprisingly difficult to learn. And I've learned a lot of different kinds of crafts and hand skills, and I find this one really challenging. So on the nights where my patience level isn't high and I break something, it feels like a crazy hobby. But on the nights where it goes well, or I get to teach somebody something, then I think it's great. Just giving you a little progress there. It's kind of fat at the tip, so I'm going to try and work knocking some flakes off up at the tip to make it a little thinner. So of course, as you're making these little chips, the piece gets smaller. So in order, it's kind of fat up there. I need to get that thinner. But to make it thinner, it ends up getting smaller. It's just the way it goes. It's part of the process. And something I need to do periodically is abrade the edge. Might seem counterintuitive, but what I'm doing is making the edge less sharp so that it's stronger, so that when I go to try to push a off, it doesn't just crush, it will actually carry the force and make a long flake. Hey, nice to see you again, Taryn. I am not going to wish your brother a happy birthday. You're a bit of a punk. I used to make it in middle school. We used to have to, carry hall passes to middle school. And one day I put my name as Ben Dover. Needless to say, I got in trouble. But I could say happy birthday to Mike. Hi, happy birthday, Mike. Wink. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, you could fool me, but not that time. Not that time. Okay. Yep, the famous bend over. It took them a while to notice. And then I had to confess to it. Because the librarian called out. She's like, okay, who is Ben Dover? And I was like, me? She was only a little upset, but the teacher that had signed that hall pass, not read my name, he was very upset. Because I made him look bad. And I didn't really mean to do that, but my friend did too. Anyway, Taryn, you should. I want you to pass along best wishes to my good friend Hugh. His last name's Janus. Yeah, Anime, making an arrowhead. So you are on the right track. There's a spear tip right there. I made this the other day. It's not really done, but it's getting there. pretty neat if you can see the little tiny flake scars. I'm working on this edge right here. Just got to get the light to catch there. Kind of. Yes, high skilled, intelligent, and for sure. What type of rock? This is a rock called dacite. Whoop, dropped it, but I caught it. Dacite. I got a big chunk here that I started with and then got sidetracked working on this little flake. There's a nice big old chunk of dacite. Here's a biface made out of. People ask, is that obsidian? It's not. That's obsidian. And that's dacite. So you can see the obsidian is a lot shinier. But they're not dissimilar. In fact, more in common than not. Okay, where was I? Let's take a look at this. You can kind of see it. Pretty thin. It's good. I like it. Oh, how's the sharpness in comparison? Well, depends on what we're talking about. When you first knock a flake off from obsidian, I don't know that there's anything sharper. I like to tell people in streams that obsidian is many times sharper than surgical steel, and they use it for eye surgery because it makes such fine cuts that don't leave scars and heal so quickly. And a flake of dacite will cut you. It will cut you badly. But I believe that obsidian is probably sharper, you know, on a sort of just a flake level. But it also means it's more brittle. So depending on what you intend to do with the tool, you might want to trade a little bit of that sharpness for a bit more toughness. So it's always a trade-off. The same is true of steel, but that's another topic. But for instance, this is Georgetown chert. This is even more tough than dacite. So it's harder to work because you have to hit it harder. But when you go to use it, it holds up to abuse than obsidian will, which is very likely to crush on the edge. So it all depends on what properties you're looking for and what you're going to use it for. You might prefer to have it be a little less sharp because it'll be a little less brittle and will hold up to abuse a little bit better. And as I said, that's steel too. Different types of steel and steel that has been heat treated in different ways. So the trade-off you often make is between hardness, which is the sharp, its ability to be sharp, really, and toughness. So a fully hardened steel is very, very hard. Like a file, a metal file is very, very hard. If you drop a metal file on a cement floor, it breaks in two. And so what you do often, if you want like a knife, and you don't want your knife to break the first time you drop it, you temper that. And that's just the process of bringing it up to a certain temperature and letting it cool in a certain way. And in doing that, you increase the toughness. So it's a trade-off between how hard it is and how tough it is. And it's a little bit the same using different stones. That analogy might have been a little bit of a stretch, but that trade-off is true of both materials. All right, it's becoming a little bit more regular. Just going to continue pressure flaking. Try and work all the way down this one end here. And then this will be interesting because I could put some notches in this, which I don't often get to because I'm usually working on pieces and you don't need them. But the notches allow you to attach it to, for instance, an arrow shaft. For instance, they provide a place for cord to wrap around and tie it. Wow, you used to collect gemstones. Cool. So I bet you many of your gemstones were probably a knappable material. A lot of gemstones are, but because they're valuable as gemstones, people don't smash them apart to make arrowheads. But you could do it with a number of things like quartz crystal or coralized, agatized coral, I should say, or petrified wood, jasper, chalcedony, novaculite, many stones. As they have a high silica content and a microcrystalline structure like dacite or obsidian or quartz crystal. Those are suitable because they break in a predictable manner. They break according to how you apply pressure to them, either force via percussion or force via. They have a property which is called fracture. I do not teach at a school. I used to teach some survivors at the place called the American Outdoor School outside of Boston. But at present, I am not teaching anywhere. Only here for you. Do I make knives? You mean like metal knives? I do. Yes. Well, I've made a couple. So I could say, but it's not like I make them all the time. But I have made some, yes. How old am I? Oh, wow. All right, so check out the hair. Anybody, you guys want to guess? This is probably going to kill me. You're going to say like 70, right? I'm just going to tell you so this doesn't happen. 54. I'm 4 years old. I thought guessing would be fun, and then I was like, no, they're going to hurt my feelings. They're going to say I'm like 8. You know, you don't have to go the right 18. Well, I'm kind of envious. I'm kind of not. But I think you got a lot of good stuff to look forward to. Obsidian. So this is dacite. This is obsidian. Can you see the difference there? Obsidian is much more shiny. But both are black. Both can be flint knapped. They have a lot in common. Let's see, we've got a nice triangle going here. Pretty thin. I think for my purposes, this is probably too wide at the base. Very wide arrows are, depending on the bow, not always the best. So I might make it a little thinner down there at the base. Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's see. No problem, Weiss. Good, good observation, though. Good observation. You were not far off. A little bit more pressure flaking here. And then I can think about putting some notches. Have I made any katanas or swords? No, I have not. That's cool. I have made a crossbow. It's super cool. I made a crossbow. That might be like one of my favorite things I've ever made. Crossbow. Do you hunt with a bow and arrow? Yes, I do. I actually own 2 bare bows. They're recurve bows, so not compound. No sights, no anything. Just a lot of practice. Yeah, sword. I don't have a forge big enough for anything like that. Yeah, I think eventually I'll make a video on how to make a crossbow. But that's probably going to be a while. I've got so many other things to make videos about. But it's based off of one by a guy with a great YouTube channel. His channel's called Todd's Workshop. His name's Todd. And he video on the one I made. I don't recall the name of the video. But it's a medieval crossbow. On one that was found from an archaeology site in France that they dated to 1040 AD. They found it in the mud outside of this village where they were doing an excavation. And he basically made a reproduction of it, and he made a video on it, which is great. You can find that, recommend it. And then if you go to his website, he also sells plans for how to make it. And I bought those plans and I made it. It's so fun. If you hop onto my Instagram channel, which is just Doug North, DUGNORTH, and go back like a year and a half or so, you can find some video of me making it, shooting it. That thing is, I love that thing. I should put it on the wall here. Super fun. Hot brisket dinner. You want a job? I don't have any jobs to offer. I'm sorry to say. I got to figure out how to get out of my job, you know? This is not my job. Maybe one day I'll have jobs to offer. Well, I don't really relish the idea of being a boss. All right, so it's a little symmetrical. This, I could trim up this bottom part, and then maybe we'll do some notches. Lots of little flakes, basically. Pressure flaking is very controlled and less likely to break it. Well, the top of it's a little curved and weird. I got to deal with that. Better. Yeah, better. Hold on, I'll show you in just a second. Okay, let's fix that tip. It's a little weird. What time is it? 5:52 p.m. All right, a little bit off this one side on the bottom. We'll start working on some notches. So I took a little bit off this edge here. So now hopefully it's a little bit more, oh, get my head out of the way. A little bit more. So what the kind of notches that I usually like to do, let me find you an arrowhead here. Are like this. This is called a side notched point. You can put notches in various places depending on how you go about affixing the arrow to the arrow shaft. This side, the way the side notch works, let me put my tools down here for a second. So if my fingers are the arrow shaft, it goes like that, and then you wrap into those notches, sinew or thread, cord, you know, whatever it is you're going to use to attach it. And that's the method that I usually like when I make arrows. That's why I do side notch. Now there are many, many different kinds of arrowhead types from North America all over the world. That's just one, just the one I like. Does look like a shark tooth. So I'm going to start on one side here. Pick my, see if I can, I'll stand up and I'm going to see if I can kind of do this so you can see it a little bit more. So I'm going to put it on the edge, and then I'm going to press in and down. And I broke off a little flake right there. I'm going to do it again. Okay. So you see there's a little like dimple right. Flip it over. And we can see that the flake came out from right in here. So I'm going to do it from this side now. Put the tip right on the edge. I'm going to press in and down. I'm at a weird angle. I don't know if I can do it standing up like this. There, broke it off. You see that little dimple right there is now even deeper. And I'm just going to repeat that process several times until that notch works its way into the side of the arrowhead. So in and down, flip it over, in and down. And a couple more. I could also use this thinner tool. So it's sort of thick. If we turn it sideways, see how it's thinner? And that way the notch doesn't get too wide. Okay, so let's take a look at that. See the notch there? Right, for the newcomers, my name's Doug North. I like to practice ancestral skills, sometimes called primitive skills. In this case, I'm stone tools using an ancient process called flintknapping. This is a stone called dacite, from which I'm making an arrow. I knocked this piece of rock off from this large piece, which made a flake that looks something like this. And I've used a pressure flaking tool to shape it triangle. And now I'm making the notches on either side. Let's go ahead and do this. Start the notch on the other side. Okay. Press in and down. Flip it over and down. Repeat. Okay. Zeph, this is called dacite. So it's neither obsidian or flint. It's like both of those. But there are some notches. And those notches allow you to haft it using some kind of cordage to the end of your arrow. So, hey, look at that. I don't normally finish anything when we do this. You've never heard of dacite? Yeah, D-A-C-I-T-E, dacite. D-A-C-I-T-E. It's similar to obsidian. Here's an obsidian point, and here's the dacite. You can see the obsidian is much shinier. There we go. There's an arrowhead. I've been doing it for a couple of years, kind of off and on. I was doing it so much a couple of years ago that I hurt my elbow. I developed like tennis elbow. So I had to take a break for, maybe like a year and a half, or a long time. So I took a very long break, and I've gotten back here. Yeah, I like dacite. It's that'll make a nice arrowhead. We'll save that. The other one I use a lot is this stuff. This is chert. This, you have to hit this a lot, which I don't mind, but it's just different, you know. It's just a much tougher stone, like flint. Some flint is very tough. I've used some English flint before, and it was really hard. I wasn't gonna work on this piece, but I guess I could. Yeah, why not, right? So this piece of chert still has vortex on it. See this white stuff? Chalky. Yeah, it's not really soft. It is. It's high silica, and it has a property called fracture, as opposed to a property called cleavage. Yeah, I I detect a bad joke coming. Anyway, fracture is this property that allows it to break in expected ways. Whereas it has cleavage, has preferred planes of breakage. So if you mean slate is made up of these thin layers that are stacked up. So that has cleavage in one direction, which means if you try to break it, it will tend to break along those stack lines. Okay? Hello, Poland. So any stone that has the property of cleavage isn't going to be suitable for this method of stone tools, because it won't break in the way that you're trying to get it to break. It's weak in certain planes. Whereas this is roughly everything, the crystals are so small that when you apply a hard force to it, that force will get transferred into the rock and break along those lines of force. Are you banned? You're watching and you just posted a note, so I don't think so. So I'm trying to get rid of this cortex here, that white stuff. It's very soft. It's not at all for making stone tools. I am making stone tools right now. A moment ago, I finished this arrowhead. Just a few. It's hard for you to see exactly what just happened there. So why don't we put this flake back on and take a look. Okay, so I hit it up here, boom, and that made that flake right there. You see how they just kind of fit right back in. Isn't that cool? Oh boy, no need for that. Bear with me here. Hopefully John will have skedaddled. No need for that stuff. The world is too full of non-necessary hostility. We're just here making stone tools, right? We're trying to learn something, have a good time. That's it. That's it. All right. Why don't, I wish yeah, here. Let's do a little, you want to see how this works? So I need to hit on a low spot. When it's held this way, in a center line on this rock. So if this is the center line, I need to hit on a spot below the center line. So a nice one right here. All right. So I'm going to make a mark right here. I'll draw a dot and I'll show you. Okay. That dot might be a little too far in rock, but Zeph, don't you worry. I'm going to hit it. First, I want to see what's going to happen. So the force likes to travel along these ridges. And you see this one. There's a nice. So here's what I'm anticipating. The flake will travel down that ridge. I'm going to draw a line where I think it will go, where it should go. Wow, the rock is so smooth that the grease pencil doesn't want to draw on it. Okay, it's hard to see my pencil line, but I went down here and back up here. So, in 3, I hit it hard right here, and we get a nice long flake here that's going to have this sort of spine along it. Let's go for it. Everybody ready? I'm just going to abrade this a little bit. Okay. Make sure it's well supported, or you could break your whole piece. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if that's right or not, but it sounds good. Here we go. It went off to the side a little bit. Let me try it again. Yep. Okay. It kind of crushed, so I don't have all of it, but I have most of it. Let me see. I'm trying to fit the flake back together again so I can show you what happened. Yeah, so the flake broke in a couple places, but I have most of it. So I hit on this side. I'll flip it over. I hit here. You can see I kind of split the white dot. And then these two pieces are part of a long flake that traveled. This one's more like that. It traveled down the length and took off that ridge. There's the flake. So it's no stuff like that that allows flint knappers to shape the rock in the way that they intend in order with pieces that are, you know, neat have in their mind. Like here's a larger obsidian biface. And I showed this knife earlier. It's a smaller one. Here's an obsidian for those who know about obsidian. So we got this big chunk of chert. It's still pretty chunky, but no right angles on the edges. That's good. That means I have all these low spots that I can hit in order to drive flakes from the underneath, knock them, make the whole thing thinner. Okay. Just trying to size up where I want to go next. Good. Kind of a problem spot that I didn't want to face. I didn't want to go too long before I dealt with it. Huh. Iceland. Yeah, probably because of the volcanic activity. It's volcanic glass. What's the you're using? This one? Are you asking about this one, or are you asking about this one? Yeah, let's talk about tools for a minute. Tools to make tools. The Vikings loved obsidian. I have some Norwegian ancestry. Maybe I'm tapping into my Viking heritage. All right, tools. So historically, what would have been used to make stone tools would have been a hammer stone to knock off flakes, or an antler billet to knock off flakes. And then for the pressure flaking, the tine, an antler tip, would have been used for the pressure flaking that I was doing. I'm using modern tools, mostly because it's less wear and tear on my joints. So this is called a copper bopper. So it's a wood with a rubber coating, a copper tip with a little bit of lead in the top. And I have these in a bunch of different sizes. And then for the pressure flaking, That's a copper tip just mounted into a wood handle. I have a longer here, which is called an ishi stick. And then a thinner one, which you can there specifically for making the notches. Let's see if you can see that there. For making the notches when I do it to make arrows or something like that. So those are the primary tools. There's a few others. Sometimes you can use a punch, depending on the technique you're doing and the product that you're trying to make. Some made out of antler. I don't really have the right stuff here, but it will be like this. You put the antler punch on the piece and then you hit it with a mallet. And that's another method that's used. So the physics behind this is if you picture a piece of glass and a single point hitting it like a hammer with a point or a BB, it knocks out a cone. And that's called a Hertzian cone. The force at point radiates out in all directions at a 100-degree angle, making what's called a Hertzian cone. The same thing's happening here when I hit the edge, boom, except there is no material out here. So the force travels into the rock where you can envision part of that cone being. So if I hit here, there's a 100-degree cone of force coming down from the point of impact. It will go into the stone where that cone exists and break along that line. It will travel further if there is a spine, I believe, because there's more mass. So the force will travel along that where the mass is and exit the stone. So if you've ever shot a window with a BB, not that I ever have, or if your car a rock has ever flown up on the road and hit your windshield, often what you'll see is that point of impact, and on the inside, there's a small cone, very small cone, of material that's knocked out. And that's the principle that we're using to make these stone tools. Ooh, that's super cool. So it's like raven flint. Black like a raven, right? It's black raven flint. Hrafnintina. I'm sorry. I obviously do not know how to pronounce anything in Icelandic. But I like the concept of the name is raven flint. And it's black like raven. Even raven's feathers even shine a little bit, right? Ah, it's so cool. Raven, I mean, I know the raven is important in some of the Norse mythology, right? Does it feature in the Norse mythology? Doesn't Odin have two ravens? So this thing is starting to get a little bit more regular. I've still got, this is a previous flake. It's very deep. So when you have something like that, you need to work. Oh, also, hopefully my signal is better. I'm working through Ethernet now. I apologize. I hope my connection is better. But thanks for checking in. I'm glad I could teach you something. Please subscribe and check out some of my from videos too. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Ramya, time will take. It depends on what you're trying to make and how much practice you had. Definitely, as I'm talking and trying to answer questions, slows me down a lot. I've watched someone who's very good at this take a pig and make a complete, arrow or spearhead in 10 minutes. I can't do that. I am not an expert. I am very much still learning. So, and I'm also, as I'm speaking and trying to answer questions, it slows me down a lot. Braid. Oh, I'm so glad you like it, Zeph. I really appreciate the support. It means a lot to me. It does. It's a nice flake. I always like to show you when there's a good one, just because I feel like it conveys going on. Hit here. And the force traveled on the underside and took off this piece here. And you can see that beautiful fake scar that was left behind from this piece. And that, in turn, will make a very quick and easy arrowhead. See how thin it is? Save that. I can't save all of them. I'll never get to it, but try to save the good ones. Yep. Yeah, it's there are different ways to make arrowheads. And I assume you've heard of the Neanderthals, an archaic form of human who lived in Europe. They had a whole different method for making arrowheads. And their method was more like using a flake. And they would carefully... Oh, I wish I kept that one just through. They would carefully prepare the core. They would say, look right here. If I take this off, it will form a triangle shape with sharp edges. And then they would knock that off and then basically use the resulting piece as their spear point. They didn't have arrows. Isn't that crazy? It was bow and arrow. But they did have spears. And they would basically prepare the core very carefully, and then with one hit, knock a piece off, and that piece would come off looking and being a spear point. And that process is called the Levallois method. And it's not something I've tried to learn yet, but it's quite interesting. There's more than one way to do this, depending on what you've learned and how the rock behaves and what you conceive of as an appropriate tool. Your own way to do it. All right. Take care. Thank you so much. Thanks for the subscription. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining for a while. So it's getting a little less lumpy, getting a little bit more regular in shape. It's getting thinner. These are all things that happen like little by little all at once. This heater is doing its job a little too well. I am very warm. Got a slight tool here that I needed to repair. Feels like it's Feels like it's good to go. Maybe I'll give it a try. Axe head. Oh, here's when I started. So this is chert. The idea with this one, and I don't know if I'll ever get around to it, is to, I flint knapped it to this shape. The next step will be to grind it smooth. And that is a long, slow process. Because you just have to sit there and find a rough rock and just, for hours, add water, grind, water, grind. It's a traditional technique that was used, and then it would be hafted to a very large handle. So it's a project I'm working on, but it's sort of a long-term project just because it's going to involve some hours of grinding. There's a lot of different ways to attach an axe head to a handle. I mean, a lot of different ways. One of the most common is to get a very large piece and to burn a hole into the fat end. And what's weird is you actually want it to be bigger than this. So this is the small end, which will go into the handle. But you want there to be a gap either side. So a gap here and a gap here. Because that way, when you go to use the axe and chop with it, it won't split the handle apart. So that's one way. It's wedged in there. Sometimes ropes are used. Sometimes pitch glue or adhesive is used. Sometimes it's lashed with roots. There's dozens of ways to attach an axe head to a handle. But that's just one sort of common way and a very strong way. So basically a kind of a oval hole is made. It's wider than the axe head, but not taller. And then the axe head goes into it, and gaps are left on the sides. And that helps prevent the axe head from eventually splitting the axe handle in use. So you should look that up. There's a lot of different ways that that's been done. Okay, where's my piece? Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. So I had to repair this. The head came off, and it kept coming off. So I've epoxied the head and the copper head back in there. We'll see if it's better now. Got a few too many things on this. It looks sus. Well, I mean, it's not pretty. It's seen a lot of use, but as long as it holds together. Oh yeah, that's just fine. When you have a good hit, it's a very sharp crack. That's a good sound. Unless you've broken the piece in half, but that doesn't usually sound so sharp. That sounds not good. That's the sound of something crushing. Crushing isn't good. But it does seem to be working. Let's see, try this side. Yeah. Oh yeah. That tool has seen a lot of use, that's for sure. No, these are not rocks that I find locally. I don't have anything this good. There are a few sources, or I should say there were a few sources of good quality rock here in the north, but they were used prehistorically. So one, a lot of them are kind of tapped out. And two, a lot of them are protected archaeology sites now. You know, these are places where Native Americans went thousands of years to get the material for their stone tools, and so now they're protected because well, they're very rare, and there could be something that we could still learn from those sites. Something I do have is this quartzite, but you can see how grainy it is. So it's similar fundamentally to, you know, this dacite, but see how glassy and smooth that is, and how coarse this is? That's because these crystals are very, very small compared to these. And so when I go to break this, I don't get nice long flakes that are super sharp. I get grainy, rough flakes. I can try breaking this piece a little bit. It's not very high quality. Pretty difficult to make tools from. It can be done, and there are better grades of quartzite than this. This is really rough. So I'm knocking flakes off. I just knocked that one off and that off, and the edge is getting thinner. They just crumbled. They just turned into, oh, like breadcrumbs of rock. So it's not very good stuff. So I've tried to work with it a bit, and it's just not very conducive to doing nice work. It's very difficult. A couple things that you can use, even if you don't have. Yeah, it kind of does want to go back to sand. A couple of things that you can use, even if you local rock, is glass. You really need flat glass though. So here, I could make an arrowhead out of just the base portion of this bottle. You can use. And then this is a piece of toilet tank. Not toilet bowl, that's curved work, but toilet tank. This is made out of a ceramic, and ceramic has the same properties that we've been talking about. It's has fine microcrystalline structure, and you can see where I've knocked off flakes from this toilet tank. It's not a super high quality material, but if you just are learning, you want to practice, and you don't have anything, you don't want to spend money to order, you know, chert from Texas, a lot of times you can get these toilet tanks for free, and you can start to practice. Yeah, I've made arrowheads out of toilet tank, so I'll take a hit. The flake will probably not hold together. Show you, you know, that it does break in the right way. So there's the flake, which crumbled, and that came off from right here, right there. So it works. There's a part of a flake. Let's see. That one kind of, where does that go? Just came off from there. I can't tell how it went. This flake came off from there. Yeah, porcelain. Porcelain. I mean, this is really low grade, but a really good quality porcelain would probably flint knap pretty well. Any kind of thick glass, as long as it's not like tempered glass. If you can find old bottles, the bottoms are typically quite a bit thicker. Those work great. If you happen to live near an area that once had like a glass foundry, and you can find like big chunks of glass, that stuff works great. So any glass, as long as it's not tempered or something, but like this, you know, this is a chunk of obsidian. Glass used for floating fish nets. I don't know what that is. Oh, you know what people have used in the past? Back in the day when they had powders were strung with insulators, glass insulators that held the power lines. People have used those insulators. Now things are like collectible in themselves, so you know, you probably don't want to smash them apart. But in the past, when they weren't valuable, people, famously, the Native American named Ishi used those glass insulators to make beautiful arrowheads. Really, really nice. And it's very thick glass. So anything that you can find like that has potential. They use glass for floating. Were they like big hollow things? And that way they floated? Sometimes you can find like glass ashtrays or slabs of, sometimes you can find slabs of stone that were cut with a, you know, like a diamond saw. Those can be flint knapped sometimes. It's a Norwegian thing. Huh, I'll have to look those up. That sounds really cool. I gotta go to Norway one day. Apparently I have ancestors from Stavanger? I don't know how you say it. I looked it up on Google Earth. You're from there? I have ancestors from there. Apparently the family name is Hermansson. Hermansson. My mother's mother was from that area. Yeah, it's a pretty common name. I can't believe you're from there. What? That's crazy. Looks like a beautiful place. What's that giant rock? Is it like a pulpit rock? Like you could go and you look down on the fjord like, whoa. That is pulpit rock. Wow. Amazing. What a small world, huh? Prestolen. What a small world. I had no intention of thinking of that or bringing that up. Very cool. Moved to Oslo. I assume there's many more jobs in Oslo. Huh? I was wondering if it was fishing, but oil, huh? Okay. Are there a lot of iron deposits in Norway? Gotta start thinking about what I'm going to do with this shape. Lots of oil and gas in the North Sea. Oh, and Stavanger's the main hub. Okay. Right. Kind of a crossroads. Got to decide what I'm going to do with this. If I'm just going to knock that off. Iron, north in Norway. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I need that this little fin here is kind of off center, and I don't know. I don't think I need anything that wide. Oh, Nazis shipped a lot of Norwegian iron to Germany. Oh, yeah? Huh. That is fascinating. This is a problem. This is what's called a step fracture right here. I hit from up here, but I just grazed, and the force did not carry, and it stopped abruptly, and it made that step. Zeph, no need to apologize. I'm asking questions. I appreciate learning stuff. And I was pretty excited that you're from where my ancestors from. So I got rid of that funny thing on the side over here to work with the longest axis that has length. Okay. No, I have not heard of that dish. I mean, I've never been there, and I don't think my grandmother was actually. I think it was her mother that was actually from there. So well, I'm a bit removed from that tradition, that culture. So what is it? Concerned in a sheep's head. I'm game. I've had some pretty fun. I'd try it. Didn't visit Norway. No, probably not. A little far north. He got around though, didn't he? Oh, it was a nice long flake. So was that. I'm on a roll. Let's see. Well, if I don't break it, on track for a spearhead or maybe a knife. I like knives because you can actually use them. You know, I don't throw a spear very often. So like this one. Is anyone inspired to try flint knapping because of this? History's weird. It's more interesting as you age. Yeah. I totally agree with that. I am obsessed with it now. I've been on a big paleoanthropology kick. Learning about all the pre-human hominins. I just find it fascinating. I've had different phases of you know what in history fascinated me, and that's my current one. Traditional food from Scandinavia isn't great, huh? I wouldn't have guessed that. I don't know. I would have guessed there'd be some really good like seafood dishes. He seems, you know, abundant and like you'd figure out something good to do with that stuff. Maybe not. Hard winters, yeah, I bet. I'm from Vermont originally, which used to be pretty cold, but it doesn't seem like it's cold anymore. I don't think it was ever as cold as Norway. You feel like Norway isn't as cold as it used to be? and some good seafood. Yeah, that just makes sense to me. I don't know. But I suppose it all depends on what you're used to. Like you probably have some fermented fish stuff, which I bet Americans would find pretty tough to eat. I'm just guessing on that. Def, you want some Led Zeppelin? I love Led Zeppelin. Kind of out of nowhere with that though, right? Lutefisk. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Fermented anything can get pretty funky. There's no doubt. It's starting to look like a knife, isn't it, folks? Like, mount it to something like that. It's got potential, eh? Still real fat, though. Just to kind of visualize where I could be going. I've been on here for an hour and a half. Wow. I'll probably give it another 10 minutes or so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the winters when I was a kid in Vermont were a lot colder. I'm still in the same general, but a couple hours south. So you would expect it to be a little warmer, but not much. Let's see. Yeah, I'm sure there is data. Probably pretty frightening data. Yeah, right. The glaciers are receding. And then that is going to dump fresh water into the big current that goes around the Atlantic, which helps to, what does that help do? I think that helps keep things cool. No, it helps keep things warm. Yeah, and if we get enough fresh water interrupting that saline current, strangely, that could precipitate an ice age. Which, maybe that's why I'm studying how to make stone tools. I don't know. I don't think it would help that much. Oh, getting more of the step fractures. I'm not paying attention, I guess. See this? Not only is it ugly, but it's a problem. If I go to hit here again, it's going to hit that abrupt step. And it will just make it deeper and deeper. To get rid, I have to come at it from a different angle to get rid of it. Probably from this side. Maybe from the bottom, but that's a long way to go. Yeah, that's not good. To fix that, this thing is going to end up getting quite a bit smaller. I do grind, and for a long time I didn't because I thought that was cheating. But as it turns out, they've found plenty of examples in the archaeological record of stones that show evidence of being ground. So I no longer regard it as cheating. Yeah, I am using a modern abrasive, so that's cheating. But it was a legit technique that was used. So that's something I could do, though I probably won't do it here on the stream because that'll just an hour of me doing this. You know, I'll do a little, but you're correct that I could get rid of that problem by just grinding. I think I could come at it from an angle and maybe clear a little of that away. Well, I didn't fix it, it hurt. Ooh! I got rid of most of it. This low spot was right here. I basically, what did I do? So if the problem, this is a different problem. It was down here, basically hit above, but directed the force this way. So I kind of snuck in behind that step fracture. Sometimes that works. Risky, a little, but sometimes it works, and like that got me out of a pretty big bind. Yeah, it's still pretty thick, really, so I'm not too worried. But like this one, that one's still pretty thick too. Hold on, do I have an actual thin biface out here? Nah, none of these are too thin. But they're getting, you're right, that like the longer you go and the thinner it gets, the more and more likely you'll snap it in half. Absolutely true. Totally legitimate concern. I have broken a lot of these. It's the, I like to joke that this is the ultimate way to practice non-attachment. Like you spend all this time and being very careful trying to make this thing, and more often than not, it ends up as a broken piece of rock on the floor. And it's like, well, that's okay. That's okay. Oh, weapon you can just chip up after. That's a pretty good plot right there. They can't find the murder weapon because it's just been crushed. I like it. In college, I was an anthropology major in college, so I studied archaeology and this kind of stuff. A rare opportunity, we had a visiting professor who specialized in forensic anthropology. So this guy's field of expertise was examining human remains to figure out how they had died, usually in some awful or violent way. So, you know, his job was really to catch murderers. I mean, indirectly. He did the scientific portion that helped the police. And so every class had something to do with like, well, murderers most often will drag a body downhill because it's easier. And murderers will do this and they'll do that. And every time, my mind like, oh, so drag them uphill. Oh, so if a dog can detect this, bury it under, cement so they can. And I realized that I was inadvertently like creating the perfect murder in my head, as during this course, which was a freaky thing to just sort of realize you were doing. But then I thought, oh, that would make a decent plot, like a student of forensic anthropology, like suddenly, gets involved in some case and then realizes that the murderer knows about all of these things. And so could only be someone who was an expert in forensic anthropology, like the professor or something. I could see adding into the plot. But I liked like the wasn't there like an Alfred Hitchcock or where like the murder weapon was like a frozen leg of ham. So the person was like bludgeoned to death, but then they cooked the ham and ate it. So there was nothing, or the icicle. All right, we've really gone far afield here, but yeah, like, though any of the flakes are potentially sharp too. All right, the tip has gotten a little wonky here. That's better. I don't think I'll finish this tonight. But I could thin this out a little bit to make a tang that then if I boil the antler, the interior gets very soft. And then you can push the tang into the antler. And it will mostly hold. So that might be what I do. I might thin this out a little bit, make it a little pointier so that it could be driven into a boiled antler and held that way. That's kind of a neat method, huh? Well, thank you so much, Zeph. I've enjoyed you and everyone else. I'm probably going to wrap it up pretty soon here, but I hope everyone will, hop on again soon. Feel free to ask questions. If you start flint knapping and you want guidance on tools, materials, techniques, I'll do my best to answer. I'm not an expert. I call myself an advanced beginner. Happy to share what I've learned. A lot of the knowledge has been pretty hard won, so I'm happy to make someone else's life a little easier. And anyway, I'm trying to get my I've been streaming every couple of days about this time. I think I'll keep doing it. It's been going well. I've been enjoying it. My motive, I'm trying to work on some long form video on my YouTube channel, and eventually I'd like to get it monetized. So I'm trying to build up my watch hours, and this is one way to do it. And it's a nice way to connect with people and to teach them something about, this esoteric field that once upon a time, all of our ancestors knew and used and depended on. And I think that's very cool that we can reconnect. We can connect with each other and with our ancestors, because at some point in your ancestors' history, this was a crucial technology. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter at all, because at some point, if you go far enough back, this was a crucial technology. Yeah, right. A forgotten common knowledge that, I mean, it's as close to a human universal as I can think of, stone tool making. And I enjoy connecting with the past in that way, and with other cultures. And if I can share that and connect, get you to connect with that and your history, well, so much the better. So please check out my other stuff and for more live streams, and please get on there, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a great remainder of your day or night. Jeff, sometimes I don't know where you're coming up with stuff, but that's okay. I appreciate you hanging out too. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you again soon.